Oh, good morning, my magnificent ones. Welcome back to Tea with Sue. Sue Paulson, your magnificence mentor here, and I'm delighted that you've decided to join me. Family has been on my mind quite a bit over the last while, so I thought it was time to dive in a little bit into this subject that's quite complex. And I'm not even sure if I know where to begin, but we'll start at the beginning. So my beginning happened quite a few years ago in the 50s, and I ended up with three brothers, one older, two younger, and then eventually a number of years later, a sister. Now, in those days, life was pretty free and easy for kids in a new neighborhood. I grew up in a newer area of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and my mom, her big thing was kids belong outside. And so regardless of the weather, she would push us out the door, rain, snow, sleet, or shine, and say, go play, and don't come back until lunchtime. And in fact, sometimes she sent a sandwich with us and said, don't come back till dinner. Well, we got used to just roaming the neighborhood, and all the kids in the neighborhood did exactly the same thing. So we explored and of course went places where we were told we were not to go because that would be dangerous, and we went there anyway. I don't know if my mother ever found out. Anyway, this developed quite a streak of independence in us as we grew. And it was actually a very good thing because very suddenly when I was 17, my mother died. And it just blew our family apart. So family as we knew it just changed dramatically. And it was hard. It was rough because in those days, it was so seldom that you ever knew about a mother dying that it rocked our worlds tremendously. So fortunately, I was surrounded by all kinds of aunts and uncles and cousins who were there for us when we were going through some of our toughest times. It didn't feel to me as if it was enough because the tragedy was so big. But eventually, I dealt with it as best I could, and we all moved on. Now, family dynamics are a very interesting thing. These days, I'm pretty tight with my brothers. We unfortunately lost my youngest brother in 1982, and then my sister died just recently. And so now there are the three of us, my younger brother and my older brother. And it's funny that when I was growing up, especially as I became a teenager and got to be a young adult, I didn't feel like part of my family. I felt as if I never belonged, that they were all kind of connected in a way that I never was and never could be. My brothers particularly, chose paths of work and abundance and so on that I didn't pick. And so I felt a little bit like a space alien anytime I visited them. So family gatherings were always interesting. And of course, we're coming up to that critical time of year with American Thanksgiving looming and then Christmas right after that, where it seems to be the most important thing to get together with families. So a friend of mine and I were talking recently about the statement that family is everything. Well, I don't know about that. And we questioned that particular statement because it depends on your definition of family. So I guess in the larger human sense, family is everything. We're here on planet Earth amongst each other to learn from each other, to grow, to love each other, and so on, as the human family. So that, I guess, is true. Family is everything. We're not meant to live in isolation, that's for sure. But when it comes to individual families, let's face it, I grew up with the Leave It to Beaver television series and Father Knows Best, and so here was the idyllic mother and father, where the mother always stayed home and looked after the family and the household, and the father went to work, and he was very wise and maybe a bit stern in discipline, but very fair, and the mother was loving and giving, and there was always home baked cookies, and I mean, it was the quintessential ideal life. It took me a long time, because I wanted that life and I knew I didn't have it. But it took me a long time to realize that that was a manufactured life. That's only on TV. It was fiction. I, I don't, okay, if you can show me a family that was like that, or you have one that's like that, good for you. That's excellent. Personally, I don't know anybody that has that kind of a family. Most of the families and the people that I know have what I call, at the very best, normally dysfunctional families, where they get along pretty good, but they have their challenges. And each person does the best they can, but each person has their own challenges. So and then it can get worse from there, believe me, and I bless you if your family is way worse than that. So because it's a challenge, it's tough. So anyway, when it comes to celebrations and get-togethers on special occasions, we're here as adults to deal with whatever's going on in our families. I think, let's face it, it's the first learning environment that we come into when we're first born. It's where we learn so many things. But one thing we need to remember is, as little ones, and then as our minds develop and grow and we have perspectives and perceptions and memories and so on, we don't have the brain capacity to really understand what's going on, the implications behind things, why this happened this way instead of this way, what was going on in our authority figures' minds, whether it's older siblings or whether it's parents or whether it's teachers at school. We just don't. And so we perceive things in our own way. And let's face it, we're pretty self-absorbed for lots of years, where we're not that interested, unless we're shown or taught, in other people's well-being. We just are, I want that toy, and I don't want anybody else to have it. So until the benefits of sharing are pointed out in a very obvious way over and over and over again. So we learn these lessons as we go. And because we're sharp when we're born, and we have good memory capacity, and especially really emotionally charged situations, we do remember them. But the thing is, as an adult, do you really remember the way it was or the way you thought it was? So sometimes when we get to a certain point in our lives, and as we become more aware and more awake, if we want to grow and we're working our way out of more restricted thinking patterns or scenarios, then going right back into our childhood and our family dynamics is one way of rethinking or repatterning whatever's been going on with us. Because sometimes when we get a different perspective, maybe we ask an older sibling about an incident that happened between us when we were young. Well, why did you do that way? Or why did that happen that way? their memory of it is probably going to be very different from yours. And their perception of the impact on you is also going to be different. They won't know if it had a particularly big impact on you. They won't know that unless you talk to them as an adult. So I think it's important that when we're revisiting our whole family scenario, that we take a look at it from fresh eyes, that we revisit what wasn't working and question not only our part in that, but the scenario, to see if now it's time to either let go of that or reframe it in a way that perhaps is closer to what really happened, other than just what we believed happened or what we felt at that time. I'm not saying that bad things don't happen when we're growing up, because unfortunately they do. It's just that the impact on you now is going to be vitally important to how you go through the remainder of your life. So your choice, what do you want to do about that? Do you want to put it to rest? There's some, of course, all the Christmas shows have started now. And I confess I'm a little bit addicted to, I love Christmas, and my mom brought us up to love Christmas. And so these Christmas movies of families getting together, and of course you can see the family dynamics played out in so many different ways. And there's some you go, oh yeah, that's just like my family. Or, oh, I'm glad I don't belong to that family. So, you know, people fighting and oh, mom always loved you best. And there seems to be always a really selfish one, and one who's long suffering and always does all the work and wants everything perfect and so on. I've been not only highly amused, but it reminds me of how tricky family dynamics really are, and how sometimes in our lives we walk away for a period of time and distance ourselves from the drama because it's not really us anymore. Maybe we grew up with it, but we said, nah, I don't think so. And then there's always the hope that we'll move from, our families will move out of that whole big puddle of nonsense into something that's far more rewarding, that the love shines through from all of that, that we can reconcile with what was then and what's now, and come to a place of peace, really. Because who doesn't like to be able to sit down with their family and feel as if they can have a good time? Now, I'm not suggesting that you can always be yourself with your family, because I certainly struggle with that from time to time. There's things that my family doesn't know about me because I don't share it, and they don't ask. And so, but they see a part of me that is me. And so they maybe don't see the whole me. And for lots of years, that bothered me, that they didn't see me for who I really am and value that. And maybe they do, and I just think they don't. So it's really, it's an odd kind of teeter-totter kind of balancing thing, to come to a place with your family where there's some peace, where that you can accept your parents and your siblings and all the aunts and uncles and cousins for who they are, and honor that, even if it's different from you. And then in turn to come to a peace that they love you in a way that you maybe haven't embraced before, that regardless of the fact that they tell you you're different or you feel different, that the abiding love is right there for you. Now, for people who have situations where they don't have a lot of family, or maybe all their family have passed on, then I heartily recommend that you start adopting people, because there's lots of people out there in a similar situation who feel alone and feel as if there's no one there for them. Well, if you like them, if you're drawn to them, you can adopt them. They can become part of your family. This whole idea about blood, only blood counts, is nonsense to me, really, because I know that I have a circle of friends whom I consider to be more of my family in some ways than my birth family. People that I can share things with that I don't share with my birth family. And that's perfectly okay. So those people that we can go to and open our hearts and just be the way we are, and they accept us with no judgments or reservations. Well, I've adopted lots of those people, even though I come from a fairly large family, and there's lots of extended family, and it's growing because babies are being born. Well, I still am surrounding myself with more and more people that I cherish and learn to cherish. So it means that I'm never going to be alone. There are always going to be people that come into my life that I enjoy, new ones all the time. And of course, I'm a little bit like my one grandmother who never liked to lose track of anybody. She used to send out 300 Christmas cards to people that she'd only met once, but she got their address, and so she'd send them a Christmas card. And it was astounding because you'd say, well, Graham, he had, whatever happened to so-and-so? Oh, I just got a note from them the other day, and she'd give chapter and verse of what was going on in their lives. I was astonished, quite frankly. Well, I'm a little bit like that. I don't like to let go of anyone that I care about. But sometimes it just happens. It's time for each of us to move on and go our separate ways, and then we lose track. But that's okay, because there's always more people. Of the billions of people on the planet, I only know, a tiny fraction of the ones that are out there. And I feel so grateful to have this extensive family, people that I consider to be part of my growing circle. And so how rewarding that is for me is hard to measure. So I really encourage you, as you're getting close to the family holidays and the dynamics, see if you can find a way to put yourself in a new place when it comes to how you are going to be with your family, what the interactions are going to be like. Some of that may require some forgiveness on your part, forgiveness of others for past wrongs that you haven't let go of since you were 3 or 12 or whatever. Some of it may require a new understanding of how that particular event has served to make you stronger. There's no question that the loss of my mom created within me this resilience that I'm not sure would have been quite as strong had she not gone. And I was mad for a long time. I was very angry for a long time that she just left me. She abandoned me. and it doesn't matter about the fact that, well, she died. That's why she left me and abandoned me. As a kid, I didn't care. So what? The result was still the same. And yet I felt tremendously guilty about that, because I'm thinking, well, she didn't have any choice over that. She died. And so, but it still felt awful as a kid. And it's taken me years to come to terms with that and realize that even though I only had her for a short time, there were countless gifts that she left with me that I got just because she was here, even though it was only for 17 years in my life. So So think about how you want to move forward in relation to your families. Every celebration gives you a new opportunity for a redo. And if you found that the way you were parented was not good growing up, here's the thing. You can still be your own parent. I highly recommend this. I highly recommend that you, as the functioning, thinking adult, take your little self on your lap and give that child the love that you so richly deserved and maybe didn't get. Because the self-parenting aspect, our parents at some point let us loose, and they're not in the picture in the same way as when we were tiny. And so, and if they were never in the picture really for you, then it's time to self-parent. And the self-parenting can make such a difference in providing you with the nurturing and filling that hole that's maybe been left by what you so richly deserved and didn't actually get. So I really encourage that as a strategy. Learn how to self-parent yourself and 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 really love you for who you are, because you're that magnificent. All right, you deserve that. And it's time. It's time. It's time to let go of some of that old stuff that's been hanging around forever, the sack of baggage that we don't need to carry. It gets too heavy after a while. And so maybe it's time to relinquish that. And even if we just do it one piece at a time, then eventually the load gets lighter and we feel lighter as a result of that. So this week, think about family as you move into the celebrations coming up. It is a volatile, highly charged atmosphere that we're going into. Well, how are you going to move through it with ease, with grace, with joy, with peace? And even if it's just a little bit to start with, it'll come easier as you work on it. Until next time, enjoy your holiday celebrations, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week. If you're enjoying Tea with Sue, I really encourage you to subscribe to my channel, share these Tea with Sue videos with your friends if you are getting something out of it. And you can always download my app, The Magnificence Mentor, which will provide all the Tea with Sue videos that I've done since January. So here we are in November, and you can look for that. And there's another video series called Magnificence Moments as well. Enjoy your week, my friends. You are magnificent, and I just cherish you being here. Bye for now.